And then I'll go ahead and open in prayer. Oh,
Thanks.
Lord Jesus, I just thank you for this time that we have together, and we thank you for Mary and for Jen. And I just ask that you would heal up Mary so that she can continue doing the work you called her to do. And please keep Jen from getting the sick too, and allow the rafting trip to go well tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I may
Lord,
have you run it by the collision place
Lord,
down the
too, I
street, but
ask that you would
when you're
be
done when
with
you're
Sharon
done.
and Bill as they travel, and just continue to lead us in our time together in our meeting. Just you show us the way of how you want to provide pastor housing for Graceway. And so we're following you and we're trusting you with all of this. And we thank you and we lift everyone in this room up and all their loved ones up, that you would keep them all in your care as well, and just continue to go before us and lead us in your way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Man.
So thanks, Tim, too. I just wanted the agenda is just to like answer your questions, Mary and Jen, and and come up with a collective vision, the next steps, and kind of a proposed schedule of what we're doing, and discussion next steps and closing prayer. So just two layered. I wasn't sure exactly what we're doing, but we are following God on this. So
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, we listened to the video and it was really informative. And I just really appreciate you guys doing that deep dive. It was fascinating what they're able to do and what they're available to do. As Jen and I prepare to sell the houses and, are preparing to get them in order and everything, we're just looking at um, what would make it what makes sense in the future. And I think where we're at is we the next house we own would be something we're investing in. um and so it with Aslan, yeah, it would be a house that we would have to buy, and then there would be investors who make it more possible for us to buy that house, which is fantastic, a multiplicity of investors, and the bank that they work with that's able to do a loan to that, to with a multiplicity of investors. And so that's wonderful. The difficult part comes when, if we're paying the taxes and the mortgage and the fees and the upkeep and all those things. Is it just inviting more questions to have a multiplicity of investors? We're trying to weigh the benefits here of having Aslan at all. Jen, do you want to add to that a little bit?
Yeah. So, just kind of timeline and context on um, our assets and when it will be liquid and stuff like that. So, um, we have a Concord home where the tenants have moved out, and next Monday is when they're going to start doing some of the uh, repairs and renovations to get it ready to sell. They said it would take about 2 weeks. So, um, if everything goes smoothly, by about June 5th is when the Concord house will be ready for sale. And then, um, you know, if it if everything goes according to plan by end of June, I would expect the house to be in contract. Um, and
Think
then,
it'll move that fast?
I mean, it's priced aggressively so that it would
Okay, so it's
hopefully,
priced to
yeah,
get a good offer.
yeah. And, we have a real estate agent. We looked at comps. And so we kind of put it in the sweet spot where hopefully there's multiple bids and price to move fast. Um, if I look at proceeds after all the expenses, um, factoring in kind of money we have to set aside for taxes and stuff like that, I think 260 is a realistic number that we can put on the table as a down payment, which would mean if it's 20%, then that's about $1.3 million house. Um, as far as the Pittsburgh house, there's not much equity. I think after taxes, it would be break even. Um, but until we buy a different house, obviously we need a house to live in. So Pittsburgh would sell after we find a new location. Um, I think some considerations we're talking about or thinking about is, um, I think if it was a church-owned property, like, um, there would be the benefit of not having property taxes, but um, in a normal house, in addition to property taxes, insurance, maintenance and repairs equate to, on average, about 2% of the home value every year. That's kind of normal statistics that I'm thinking about. And then um, the offset is that at about a 6.5% mortgage rate, which is what's right now, every 10% of a down payment is about $190,000 in interest savings. So if we come out with 20% in between the church and Oslon, um, there's like, let's say 30% down payment added. Um, there is an offset there. So we do um, have that benefit. Um, at the same time, like, depending on the scope of the house, I don't want to buy above our means because if we have to, at some point in the future, um, cash out, then, we would have to come up with the extra money to buy out Aslan and buy out Graceway. So that's something I'm thinking about as well. Um, and as far as like proximity, um, I think if it's a church-owned property, um, like being closer to like Pleasanton, Dublin, that makes sense. If it's a property that we own, um, I'd like more wiggle room in terms of proximity, just because it needs to be central to San Francisco, San Jose, and wherever else uh, where a future job might land. I mean, right now I'm at Cisco. I'm not planning to go anywhere, and uh, for the most part, I work remotely. But um, as with most tech companies, those policies change all the time. So, um, like places we were thinking about were like Castro Valley and Hayward, where it wouldn't be too far from the church, but gives us a little bit more flexibility should my job conditions change. Um, but I do like really want it to be a place where Mary and I can host barbecues and invite the congregation over, host some Bible studies, things like that. Um, but maybe like the repairs and maintenance and property taxes, insurance, like that's probably where I'm concerned. Like how to keep that. fair and equitable across the board because the video that I saw, it seemed to be like whatever Graceway puts in, whatever Aslan puts in, and then whatever we put in, but we would be responsible for all the property taxes, insurance, repairs, upkeep, and etc. So um, I'm just not really sure how, um, if we're paying all that, it's fair and equitable. Um, I mean, we do get to live in it, so that's another kind of aspect of it, but that's just kind of what's in my head.
Let me take a half shot at that. I don't know that I'll get the whole shot. Um, I think the one way to look at it is to look at it as if the pooled investors for the down payment are a second mortgage, which is the position they would be in if we move ahead with the program that Aslan operates. Um, the strength they have is they have this relationship with the lender because it's very difficult to get multiple parties into the down payment. I mean, the banks, they'll take it from a family member, but is this a gift? Is this a loan? So, um, in the case of a traditional second mortgage, I mean, we had that help on our first home, and we were, it was the numbers were so small, it's absurd at this point. You'd pay way more for a new car, but uh, we were paying the person that took back the second principal and interest on the second every month. The difference in this case is there are no payments on the second. So it's essentially a passive real estate investment with no return until a transaction occurs. And that differs from a traditional second. Um, and, in the case of a traditional second, um, the person with the mortgage is the one that's paying all the bills. So that's where this approach comes from Aslan. Um, and just to be clear, they're essentially a middle person broker in this. They don't invest as an organization, and the church, if we had a pot of money lying around in the church in the housing fund, we could invest in that, and then individual interested people can invest. And the difference is in the flexibility in this case is I could take money out of an IRA or a brokerage, any type of investment account and put it in there knowing, okay, I'm helping with the down payment. I'm not expecting to get any money. Until a transaction takes place. I mean, there's apparently Aslan has some out if there's a real need, but it's designed not to be done, not to be liquid at all. So, it might be helpful for you guys to have a conversation. I mean, Nicole is open to a chat with you if we decide to move ahead with them. Um, and that's a session decision as Mary and I have emailed back and forth. Um, not our housing crew's decision. Um, I liked, having dealt with the Menlo people, a couple of things. Number one, they've been at it for 40 years. So they own a ton of, a bunch of properties. Uh, And secondly, the amount of investors into that is stunningly small. You look at the properties and they're saying their total investors, donors to that fund are like 15 to 15, 12 to 15. So it's it's a very unusual person that says, okay, I want to be part of my legacy, ongoing housing for pastors at this church long after I'm gone. And that's different than a lot of people think. Um, so I don't know if that is helpful at all, but that's what's sort of front of mind to me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like the interest savings, I think make a lot of sense with the additional investment. Um, I guess for me, the conditions and restrictions um, are something I want to think about in terms of like, do we have to go through their financing, their real estate agent, and um, like how restrictive is the structure of the agreement? Um,
That probably a Nicole question because I don't think, I mean, their lender, absolutely yes. Um, if we're doing a packaged group of investors into the down payment piece. If you all on your own um, can swing it, God bless, go for it.
yeah, I think one of the reasons I asked that question is the rate's been floating between 6 and 6.5. Um, what if like 2 years down the line, there's uh, a drop in interest rate and we want to refinance? How does the structure of the agreement enable or restrict a refinance where we can,
I don't know.
yeah,
That's a great Nicole question.
yeah, which is why we originally like wanted to spend some time with her. But like in the previous recording, it felt like she deferred to how we wanted to structure it between Graceway, us, and then I guess they have some conditions as well. So, um,
I mean, I don't think we've thought of that.
yeah,
I mean, I know in the prior case with Mike, the church put up a CD with the lender as the down payment.
okay.
And then, they were in there 20 plus years and they refinanced a few times. And at one point, they paid off the church with interest on the CD in a refi. And I can't answer in this, because it would be, well, and depending on how long you've had your houses, you may be paying really favorable rates right now.
Yeah, we're paying like two, three.
Yeah,
Yeah.
both are under 3. Um,
Wow.
and like
Yeah.
on the Concord home, there would be more money, but I did a cash out refi where I paid off my parents' home so they could retire. So
Yeah.
there's less money than there would have been, but no regrets there.
That's a blessing for them and
Yeah.
for all the way around, everybody
It
involved.
did did its job for sure, that house. But the pain point is probably, breaking even on this one because it's a nice house, but um and then I think, can I just jump in, Jen? Do you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
one more
yeah,
thing?
go for it.
Okay. I think that's great. I think you're right that, the refi question would be a Nicole question. I do like the point that with this investment structure, we aren't paying interest on such a large amount. This would be really nice. That would be a blessing from the church. That's probably the number one benefit. It would be a blessing from the church to have additional investors for a down payment so that we're not paying such a high, we're not paying so much interest. But the other question then that the housing committee could answer for us is, as we go forward, let's say absolutely we want more down payment, less interest payment. Like that would be fantastic. So we ask the church for investments. Well, then the church does need to have probably a set of expectations for us. And Nicole alluded to this. What kind of house would this be? And oh, I'm echoing a little. I'm not sure, but or maybe there's some other people. Anyway,
No, that's here.
oh, okay, no worries, no worries. I think that when I think so, I don't think this church would have that many stipulations unless we open it up to the entire congregation and whoever wants to invest, starts to have questions. So so let's say people start to want to say a 15-mile radius was something Nicole suggested. Um, for a pastor house, that's practical. Like for something we're not paying property tax on because it's a house used for ministry. If it's a house that it's kind of a long-term house for Jen and I, then we'll probably try to find something long-term for the family, which, includes him driving down to San Jose or San Francisco. So I think some of those, excuse me, um, expectations were something that we also wanted to make sure were on the table. Do you think that the church, unless we already have a sense, like this housing committee has a heart to do it, maybe it's just this housing committee that makes the investment and we don't ask much from the church. And then this housing committee can come up with a few expectations because you guys have already been talking and praying about it instead of opening up to who knows how many opinions. I think that's the part that as a pastor, um sticks in my head. We could be inviting strife by inviting a multiplicity of investors. Does that make sense? Pam and Marcy and Vivian and yeah.
Well,
Have you guys talked about expectations?
yeah, because I mean, we, having been part of session back when you came on board,
Mm-hmm.
it was a clear expectation that we at some point get you more in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mutually beneficial to say, okay, let's not do that at the time, but do it within a period of time. And then um, your life changed and Jen came
Mm-hmm.
into it, you know. So in my mind, I mean, that's not really our discussion. That is a session discussion. Okay, this is what we agreed to way back when. This is where life is now. I don't know what the Pittsburgh house looks like. It sounds like it's perfect for Jen to fish off the backyard,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know the Pittsburgh schools or something. If you're blessed with a family and
Mm-hmm.
that's where you want to go, that you want your kids in. Um, so, kids potentially enter into a picture too, and that means school district becomes really important. Um, unless it's private school.
And
Uh,
that's a while. I think that's, so that could be another 6 years. So we want
well,
to, yeah,
but I
or
mean, it's a
never. Yeah.
consideration, and the flip side on, you know, I was a little daunted by the amount that Aslan wanted for housing policy, but I get it entirely from the standpoint that we should have, if we look at our history, maybe we're going to be blessed and you're going to be number three that stays for more than 10 years. Um, but history says, we're going to see multiple people,
Mm,
and legacy wise, okay, let's plan for this.
mm.
If I'm trying to put on a 50-year hat, not a 5-year hat. So, but I get entirely that, if Jen's going to the city or the South Bay, heaven forbid you're going to Cisco headquarters right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a
Um,
while.
yeah, I know where that is. Uh,
Yeah, from San Jose back home in evening commute, it takes me 3.5 hours. So
yeah, you need the helicopter that
Oh,
the
that'd
guy
be
was trying to
fine.
fly from Sunol.
Yeah, they have the
Well,
helicopter service in San Francisco. Anyway, from Livermore.
well, here's another thought. Yes, it's true. Aslan's asking for a chunk of change, so I do want to make sure, because I think even though we've been given some capital money at times here and there, it's only allowed us to kind of break even with the budget this year. We really do need to up our giving a bit. And so I want to be cautious. I don't want to, assume we have the money lying around. But on the other hand, one thing I could see is, let's say somebody in the church wants to sell a house. Like, we've got so many houses that are going to need to be sold in the next few years or already have been. Let's say someone moves into retirement community, wants to sell a house, and doesn't want it to go to market, wants to sell it straight to the church, but not undervalue. And we don't have that kind of money. Everybody in the church, their homes are valued pretty high now because they bought them a long time ago. Let's say we've got a bunch of people saying, yeah, actually, we'd love to keep so and so's house, in the community. Let's all help buy this house for Jen and Mary. Let's do it fast. We'll go through Aslan. I think that's kind of a benefit. I think that that's one of those things that we have a house in mind. We want to buy it. We don't have the capital ourselves, but through Aslan, maybe the church buys this house. Um, that would be cool. And that would help the person selling because we could do all the tax stuff. Um, but yeah, that would be a huge benefit. If it's just us shopping around for a house, yeah, I think that having a set of expectations that come from session would be good. Right now, session's heart is to make sure I don't burn out, because I was getting pretty, especially last Christmas, I was sharing a little bit. And I think that with my car trouble lately, that's been another stressor. And so my desire is to get near a BART station, which Oakland, Castro Valley, Dublin is perfect. But right now, our BART station takes you all the way out to Oakland and then all the way back to Pleasanton. So just waking up so early to have a 2 hour
Oh.
ride, it's like that doesn't make sense. And so it's not to me, it's not that that 580 corridor is really ideal for our needs. And then with more families living out in Dublin and Castro Valley area who are visiting us, I think that makes it convenient for meeting too. I can't imagine Session having any other opinions on that. It's yeah. So to me, yeah, go ahead, Jen. You unmuted.
well, like the other thing I didn't understand from the last recording is why Aslan didn't want it to be a church property. Because I thought in the beginning, um, when the topic of pastoral housing came up, like it's something that Graceway wanted to invest in as in the owner's position. Um,
Yeah,
Does anybody here know? Maybe Tim knows.
I I think that they're set up to not have it, not
Mm.
to sell it to a church. So their model, Oslin's model of helping organizations by housing isn't set up for the nonprofit organization to be the owner of the house. So it doesn't, what they have put together doesn't work out for that so much. But we can ask Tim. There's just more, having the owners buy it and having the people that need a house buy it and having, donors helping with the payment of the house rather than the other way around. So they're just set, I think their organization was just set up different. So I'll ask Tim. Tim, Mary and Jen just asked, housing committee was, uh, looking to buy a house, the church buy a house. Why was that not part of what Aslan can do, help the church buy a house? Yeah.
They're very familiar with the Menlo folk. Um, and if I understood Nicole from my couple of conversations, they feel this is a better way for them to do it and to scale. That, not having the church own the house. That certainly can be an option, probably not with them. That's the Menlo model. And frankly, that's the Mance model that was there for decades or longer.
But I mean, if the goal is to have pastoral housing for whoever the pastor of Raceway is, like long term, do you see Aslan as a long term partner in that if the model doesn't align with kind of that type of structure?
Mm.
Well, I guess I see them as a long-term partner because, God can do whatever he so chooses. I don't see us getting to the Menlo model, um, of a Mance because we haven't had a lot of people raising their hands saying, I'm ready to help. And some of them, I mean, there have been instances where if somebody wanted to remember the church, I mean, the efficient way to do that is donate 10%, donate 20% of the equity before it goes on the market, get that recorded, and then it's that win-win Dan Navarre talked about. You get a huge tax win. The church gets a donation from non-cash flow, which is huge. It's where most of our assets are, speaking broadly. Um, so lots of wins there, but we haven't had anybody raise their hand and said, I want to know how to do that, to my knowledge.
Right. And to be fair, I don't think
Yeah.
we've communicated that clearly, that benefit, although we've attempted.
Hmm. I think it's as clear as we can be. I
Well,
think people are just nervous about donating. Investments are sketchy, and then they know they have kids, they have grandkids, they have great grandkids who are in need as well. Like I think of Dorothy Mayo's family. It's extensive, so it's hard to think about the church when you want to make sure everybody has a good gets a inheritance, but I understand that it has nothing to do with your family's inheritance. It has everything to do with tax. And so we'll keep expressing that. I do think that what Tim is saying is that Aslan gives us the opportunity to invest in a house. Let's say Jen and I are at that house. Let's say I'm still at the church in 10 years, but we move, right? We're doing a little better. Maybe we move to a bigger house. The people at church get a payout. And let's say the church is doing a little better. Maybe at that point, that payout becomes a donation to a manse, and they start to invest in housing again, like the old days. But at this point, all we have is Aslan money, if that makes sense. So I think what Jin is saying is if our long-term vision, our long-term goal is to try to buy a manse, which does make sense. I was telling a pretty excellent young man at the pastor's retreat I was at a couple weeks ago. He was thinking about going to Menlo, and he's like, I don't know if I can live in the in the peninsula. And I said, apply for one of the pastor housing. It's discounted, and because he's got two kids, and he got very excited and intrigued. And so, if that's our long-term goal, then maybe we do focus on that from the beginning. And it depends on if this is a good step toward that or a distraction from that. And that's hard to know right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think, yeah.
it's sounding like a good goal. I mean, that's why I asked some of the questions I asked that was on the recording. If it can
Yeah.
be a step to that direction, like you were just saying. Um, so, but yeah, we don't have all that much at the moment. But what I was thinking too, it is important to have policies and stuff. And, we don't
Right.
probably have to develop one from scratch. We probably can borrow one, maybe Menlo's or some
Yeah.
other, and then we can work off of that. So the expectations are set up. We can
Yeah.
start what's already been done before. And, maybe not have to spend the whole $10,000 to get there.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
I think what I was saying before this call was like if Graceway, Mary, and I have a framework set up, then the amount that we have to spend with Oswan upfront, that would be decreased or not extend beyond the 10,000 or what have you. So
Yeah.
I think,
Well, I mean, two things. The 10K is the housing policy.
Right.
Okay.
All the spade work, developing the material, working with Mary and Jen, and then working with the congregation, that's the $2,500.
Gosh. Okay.
And then if it moves to the point of transaction, there are a couple of fixed fees to do XY on the loan and, you know, the seconds. So, I mean, I mean, I agree with them philosophically because, at one point this place had four ordained positions. I'd love to see us get back to there. Um, and if you got four ordained positions, are you only doing housing for the senior or are you doing housing for anyone that's ordained? And that ought to be clear. So that's the strength of having the policy in place, which, we haven't, I mean, the Mance, transitioned to a church office somewhere in the 60s or the 70s at the old Neal Street Church, when the pastor at the time went and bought his own house.
Yeah.
And so we haven't had one since.
Yeah.
and I guess,
And I have no idea whether we helped the associate that came in after Mike with his housing. We did help the guy that came in as youth pastor, but that was a private, that essentially was an Aslan model done privately to
Yeah.
help them with the down payment.
Sorry.
No problem. All right, so where where are we? I guess is what's rattling around in my head.
I
Well,
guess,
okay.
um, maybe understanding the framework Graceway and you guys as a housing committee um, desire as a starting point would help Mary and I understand where we stand, whether to whether it makes more sense for us to invest in a house alone or as part of this. Um, because I see a lot of benefits, but I have to weigh kind of the restrictions also. So that's kind of where my head is at.
Yeah, and the restrictions, a piece of that is, if the world were perfect, you guys, I mean, there's very little difference between South San Ramon and Dublin, but you'd basically be in that piece of San Ramon, Dublin, Livermore, Pleasanton.
Hmm.
Castro Valley isn't that far by miles. By mentality, the Dublin grade counts, in terms of people thinking of going over it. Although it's crazy when we've lived here for decades, obviously, and my mother used to do her regular grocery shopping in Castro Valley. There, there were stores in Pleasanton, but she likes to co-op in Castro Valley, so that's where she went, and that was pre-580 as we know it today. Um, so mileage wise, it's not far. Psychologically, it's a little farther. And Jen, I get entirely what you and Mary are saying about your life in that business, and people move around.
Yeah, and I, I do want to reiterate, like, we want it to be a place where, the congregation can come and have barbecues and different meetings and stuff like that. Um,
But this would also be a family house, like I was telling someone, Bill, we'd hope this it would be Jen's third house. We would hope it to be more forever home, um, if possible. I
and
think I think where I stand right now, just to clarify, um, if we had a pretty ideal, let's say if we had a house on the in our minds, if we had money in a pool and we were urgent to get me into the area, like let's say if I lived in the Midwest, I think Aslan is a no-brainer. Um, right now, I think that as Jen and I get our money liquid and look at where to settle, we might just put Aslan on hold and see what God does. I think only because 10,000 is a lot for the church right now. I think if more of our ducks were in a row or God had aligned things a little more clearly, um, that's totally fine. But at this point, I think God's allowing us to look around independently, and it seems like it would put a little more stress on the church than relief. And so I would suggest putting a hold on it. Now, the other thing is that the other step would be maybe the housing committee meets with the session and talks about parameters and expectations and see where that goes.
Yeah, so have you had this conversation with Session about, you know, locating closer?
Yeah, I mean, because Marcy, Bill Smith, Bill Potter, no, Bill Potter hasn't been as in tune with the housing committee, but we talked a little bit about that. Um, the session, as it stands, doesn't think there'd be a noticeable difference for the church if I were closer, because I'm down there 6 to 7 times a week. For me, though, they're concerned. So they've talked about, we've talked about having work from home days, things like that. So it'd be less a week that I'm down there. Um, the reason for being down there is, pastoral visitation, running into people, all kinds of things, which I do. I ran into, Kara Nielsen after getting my nails done, and I run into people at the coffee shop, and I run into people at the gym, and I don't do much up here. In fact, people have suggested if I want to make friends, try staying in my hometown. But I don't. My friends are, I do run into people down there. And Marcy, correct me if I'm wrong, the attitude that I feel like is on session now is this is to kind of preserve my sanity because of the commute.
Yes.
But the noticeable difference for the church and ministry, I don't think there would be much.
Just having the pastor less stressed out.
Right.
Um,
I
I,
forgot to mention this earlier, but another factor in whatever we decide, like uh, what real estate experts say is that um, the break even point for buying a house is about 7 years. So that's like another factor in, um,
Whether we rent or buy, basically.
yeah.
Are we going to be there longer than 7 years? That's the break even with your investment.
And that's why if it's a property that we're going to be owning and being primary on, I want to think about it for long term. Whereas if it's a church owned property, there's a little more flexibility, at least for us.
And I'm not planning to leave or anything, but whoever's the primary, let's say something happens to me and I need to be an associate, whoever's the primary should have a church-owned property. But that's just a thought.
Mhm. Okay. So, I'll try to summarize for the housing, pastor housing work group vision. The vision is to provide housing for the future pastors, and how to get there is completely we're depending on God because there's not a clear path. Although Aslan seems to be help with some of that path, getting us there. In that regard, an answer to prayer. The starting with Aslan was $2,500. They were recommending setting up a housing policy, which is 10,000, but it's not required. We could get there without that 3 months of work with them by having a draft housing policy from somewhere else to help with expectations and policy documents to make the agreement process more smooth and make it closer to $2,500 for the agreement process. Because if you don't have policies, then you have to kind of at least set up what you need for the agreement, without having a base. So there's that piece. But whatever decision that you two decide is best for you, that's what we have the goal for the church, but it doesn't require you to be part of it. We appreciate you want to be part of it. So, but we're just seeking God's will. And so far, he's let us have a lot of time because there hasn't been an urgency like calling a pastor from the Midwest. So, but we do want you to be
Well,
quite, yeah.
if we borrow a policy, I wonder if we could do that and talk about what that policy might look like, because then it would give Jen and I some clarity on um, the parameters.
I think that sounds good. We just have to borrow one. I'm not sure how to get one. Can we borrow one from Menlo maybe? Or there's several others.
Yeah, because all the Presbyterian churches I know have or have had a manse, even Walnut Creek and C3, and so we could probably ask one of our closer people too if they have a policy.
I mean, because Walnut Creek, the guy that they hired as senior, had been in the Bay Area for 10 years.
Yeah, Bart.
So he already was established.
Yeah, he's great. But I know
And
that, yeah, they might have one.
Milpitas actually, when the prior guy was there, sold the manse
Ah,
at his suggestion. And then when he left, I think they had that pot of change to use to help the new
Matt.
guy, because the new guy, I don't think, I'm pretty sure he was not local. I'm pretty sure he
No,
came
he
from out of
was,
state.
yeah, he was from out of state. He came from like Florida or something.
You know, in Menlo, they already had a house established, you know, they'd already bought one with the
Hmm.
senior pastor in mind.
Yeah.
So I can reach out to John at Eco and see if he has resources for a housing policy.
Yeah. Or it could point you
Because,
in the right direction.
yeah, because I don't know. Otherwise, it's potluck. And, you know, if we're not going to use as then, we certainly can't turn around and come back to them and say, hey, give us one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it would give us an idea of what it looks like. Sorry, Jane, go ahead.
I have to jump pretty soon, so I just wanted to see if anybody had questions for Mary and I before I go.
Because, well, I see two next steps, and one halfway involves you, because I think somebody suggested in the course that, you know, session and housing meet together and say, okay, here's where we want to go. Because until this conversation, Jen, I had no idea you potentially were going to have that much down payment cash available to you. And that you know, you could probably find a place with that down payment cash.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I can convey the questions though if you need to go, babe, Jin.
I I mean, Tim, you can continue.
Okay.
I mean, I have to go in like 5 minutes, but I just wanted to give you a
yeah, I
brief.
appreciate. Well, I just that's where I see our next steps is see if we can find a couple of housing policies that we can look at and based on that get this group together with session so we are all on the same page
Mhm.
in terms of dealing with you and Mary.
Okay.
Because I mean, I share Sessions' comment about, you know, burnout on commute for
Mhm.
both
Yeah.
of you.
Well, uh, when Mary's stuck in traffic for 2 hours, I definitely know about it because I was there.
Yeah.
It is hard for him too. I make
Sadly
sure.
true. Sadly,
I
yeah.
have to protect my face and
I'm nice. I'm delightful.
I
Yeah.
had a question. You had mentioned that in the past, this was not for Pastor Mike, but it was for an associate pastor, that there was a private investor loan.
Yeah, somebody put together a group of people to help them get into a home with basically the down payment or a piece of the down
Ah.
payment.
So that's another avenue to pursue.
It was done. I do not know what the yeah. I know there were, you know, multiple people came together and helped him get it in. Beyond that, I don't know any of the details, and I think the actually the he sadly in his 30s got colon cancer and died. Um, and she's remarried and moved out of state. And Ted Fairfield, I think, was the one that was the driver in putting the deal together, and Ted's at home with the Lord. So When I talked to Fred Hempy about it, he really didn't know any details other than that broad stroke I just gave you.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah,
But that
and
is
so
a possibility, though.
it is.
It could be a possibility, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, the challenge with that becomes finding the right lender that's going to somehow put up or, put up with that down payment coming from multiple parties.
well, it sounded like Ted consolidated the investment into one, so then
Yeah,
it's
I
just
mean,
one.
because it was not done through the church at all. It was, you know, done private party.
Yeah. And I think that um, person Nicole mentioned there was a bank here that would do a down payment from a private party. I think it was like either Union or Fremont Bank.
Well, I know the Fremont Bank guys, so I can certainly ask of them. I
Yeah.
mean, her lender's in Southern California,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's a guy that used to be in ministry or youth ministry, so he gets it entirely, left because he couldn't make enough money to take care of his family, and has done very well in the mortgage business.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I do think a great next step is to see what other churches have put as parameters and communicate with sessions some of those ideas. But if 2,500, the other thing is, do we have enough in the pool to make a 2,500 investment to Aslan to connect investors from the church with a down payment? Is it worth it? And we can maybe talk about that after we see the parameters and discuss if it's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know
That
how
makes
much is
sense.
in the pool, but it's probably
Yeah.
at least a third of it.
Nice.
Seeing as the last time we checked in, it was like Sherry and I that were putting money in. So,
No. Dang.
because I still don't think people were aware there was that many, but there might, it might be more and we don't know. I just haven't asked Bill. And
Well, and there's a lot of financial concerns these days. A few more people have been laid off recently. Little
Mhm.
Steven, our tech guy, was laid off because of AI things. And I think it ripples up because people's kids are affected. And John Rediger and Michelle's kids had to move in with them for a little while and they had to sell their home for less than they bought it. And so financially, people are very nervous right now. And it's not that the retired folks with investments are that nervous, but their children and their grandkids are nervous. And so, yeah, so I think that has an effect on the church. And and yet, like you've been saying, Tim, this is beneficial tax wise, and it's not an extra expense; it's a benefit. So certain asset dedication. But I do understand the caution, whereas in the 90s or early 2000s, there were some booms and there would have been people who were not afraid to invest for the church. I think we're in a different time a little bit right now. So we can definitely be praying for those right people and for God's will.
Well, we're very definitely in a right time. I'm doing
Yeah.
an AI workshop, and the guy teaching it was teaching something this week that he said,
Excuse
I
me.
couldn't have said this 6 months ago because that's how fast it's moving. And
Yeah.
it's moving at warp speed compared to any other technological change we've seen.
Yeah. Of course.
It's
Yeah.
that much faster.
Yeah. And Yeah.
So
It-
it's going to, you know, the ripples are going to be big ones,
yeah.
and they will be more than ripples, they're likely to be waves.
Yeah, so we understand, and that's something maybe I acknowledge too from the pulpit, because about 3 years ago, my pastor collective started talking about how, soon 60% of our churches will be affected by layoffs, and that was churches with more families, but on the other hand, even retired folks have kids and grandkids, so um, yeah, we're starting to see that, so we've got to be sensitive and aware for sure.
Okay.
Well, and the challenge is everybody's crystal ball is really fuzzy
Yeah, it's true.
because in contrast, I was listening to something yesterday, in contrast to the dot-com boom where people were burning through millions of dollars with no revenue, no break even.
Yeah,
At this point, companies are minting money.
yeah.
Um, and so it's and they're minting money and still laying off,
Yeah.
even with the overhiring during the shutdown. I mean, they're
Yeah.
so it's
That's so true.
really fuzzy looking forward as to, it's always played positively in the long run, but it's bumpy to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Well,
Okay,
so
so I've got one. Well, and I guess I need to just so depending on how we come out, I will let Nicole know our next steps, and we're not ready. And I think don't know this for a fact, but she was open to doing a conversation with Jen and Mary as part of the 2500. And if we think it's helpful, I will take a run at once we sort saying, okay, can we just pay you your hourly rate for a half hour? So you just field all the questions for Jen and Mary.
Mhm.
Because she indicated she was up for that, but she
Okay.
wanted to fold it into the 2500.
Okay.
And, there may be, this ultimately is the church's deal, but you're directly involved in the
Yeah.
church's deal.
right.
Um,
Well, and we don't
so
really have a line item to write that from. We could write it from the housing committee's income to write that check. But we didn't budget it this year. So I'd have to kind of play with where that money would come from if we decide to go ahead and do that.
the
So yeah.
2500 or the
Or even
one-off.
the half hour, yeah, maybe
Yeah, because
special
I mean
projects or
that'd be a
something.
couple $100.
Yeah. So we just want to make sure that's where the elders need to have that kind of oversight to make sure they know where all the initiatives are. And yeah, a couple $100 from special projects from the past, like the pastor's discretionary fund, which would be, the fund that I have for special projects. That would be fine, I think. As long as I think I'd rather have that example housing parameter first so that Jen and I
Yeah,
can
let
look
me
over
see
that.
if John may or may not be with me today.
Okay.
He's in Florida, so
Okay. Yeah,
life
thank you.
life is moving towards the 3-day weekend.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Okay, what else, Pam?
I think as far as so we've got the next steps. It sounds like Tim's going to try to get a couple policies get to you, and then meeting with session scheduling. I mean, you would then want to meet with Nicole first, and then have a all session and housing work group meeting for a half an hour or something. After that, is that the right order?
No,
Or
I think I think we need to get our act together, housing in
before?
session for,
Okay.
before I go. I mean, I'll just give Nicole a quick update that we met, more questions. We're chasing some things to ground. We're not ready to engage at this point. Still on the table.
Okay. then we just have to come up with a time to meet with
Right.
housing committee
Because
and process.
session met this week,
Yeah.
so they're not on the schedule till next month then.
Right.
They're pretty available lately to jump on a Zoom.
Okay, so we may just want to do. Let me see where I get with John, and I will let you all know, and then we can pull together something Zoom wise.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And then when you send this recording out, it could be that other people have insight since there's a lot of housing committee folks that aren't here today.
Yeah.
Right.
Super.
And I can, anyway, and in this recording. So Bill Potter sees all the recordings because he's the one that actually transfers them to YouTube all the time. So
Fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, so you just missing, I think, John and Brian. Who else is
Yeah,
missing?
Brian, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, just two more people. Is it just five, right?
Yes.
John and Brian.
six.
So we're just so we could actually send it to John
Craig
and Brian if
Wisman.
that's
Craig,
helpful.
Craig Wisman.
Oh,
Oh,
Craig.
Craig, I'm
No,
sorry.
not Craig, not Craig. Yeah,
Craig,
Craig
John, and
Wisman. Yeah.
Brian. Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's, if that sounds good to all, and then we could figure out. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be fine. We could also have a meeting with them later if there's some questions. That'd be
Okay.
good since they're ultimately responsible for where the money of the church is going. I think that's important. That'd be great.
Okay. Well,
Well, and they're the ones that are also working with you on goals and things like
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
and on your mental health as well.
Yes. Yeah. So
I mean,
should I wait?
heaven forbid you have a day that Jen goes to the office and you go to the office
Yeah.
trying to get back home. Good
Yeah.
golly.
We got it. We got it. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Um,
You go that way and meet for dinner in Milpitas.
Yeah, there we go.
yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so Tim, you get the policies
Yeah,
and
I'll
then
reach
I'll
out to
send those
John and
with
Rico.
all the other stuff to everybody. Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Thanks to Mary.
All
And
right.
also thanks to Jen
Yeah.
too for making the time
Yeah.
to with us
Well,
today.
thank you for making the time. It's really it's helpful, especially as we've been praying for this for a long time and trying to figure out what God actually has us to be doing. So with the living situation. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I pray us out?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
God, thank you so much that Marcy and Pam and Vivian and Tim and Jen and me have made it here. We know that you're the ultimate author of our future. You know where the world is going, where the Tri Valley is going, where Graceway is going, where the housing committee, where Jen and I are going. And God, we just want to lift it all to your hands, yielding to your will. Jesus, we thank you for being with us in this transition time, for allowing Graceway to enter into a time that was unclear and unprecedented and still making it work. God, we give you all the glory for that, for keeping me safe and all the moves and all the commutes and everything and keeping Graceway thriving. God, we lift it all to your spirit. We thank you for these available people who are saying they're available to your will through finance. We thank you for Aslan. We pray that we continue to see clearly your next flourishing step that you have for us, God. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And then before we go,
All right.
we're going to get a meeting on the calendar for next month.
Sounds good. Do you mind if I knock off? I've got a couple
No,
things I
go
gotta.
ahead.
All
Yes, you
right. See you
can. Thanks
later.
for praying. Yeah, have a good day. We hope you feel better
Okay.
too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. June. Do you want to meet on Juneteenth? That's the 19th of June. It's a Friday, third Friday of the month. I'm
That
might be
works for me.
open. Just to keep with the same
Fine
rhythm.
with me.
Does that work?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's fine with me.
okay.
Norma.
That works
Norma.
for
What time?
Yeah,
the
that's good with
19th
me.
of
I'm
June.
sorry, I'm trying to referee Kid Little Dog.
Oh, okay. The
Oh, yeah.
Friday of June.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, of course, Bill and Sharon will let them weigh in too. Does what is there constraints on the other ones? Like the 12th I have a thing. Oh, no, the 12th would work too, or the 26th. So does anybody have any other constraints in case Sharon and Bill can't meet? Because they're not here to let me know. Oh,
So we're penciled in for the 19th then?
yes, penciled in for the 19th. And just for
Okay.
flexibility, is there any constraints on the 12th or the 26th for anybody?
They're all okay for me.
Okay. Okay. So I'll let everybody know the next meeting date, Bill and um Bill Potter and Bill Smith and Sharon Smith, so we
Okay.
can adjust it if necessary, but I think that's good. Yeah, and this has been real good. Now, we were just focusing on one topic today.
Well, we got it covered.
I think that's probably the most important thing at the moment,
Mhm.
so. Is there anything that anybody else wants to add before we leave? Oh, that's in Tim's house. Your microphone picks up everybody's voice really good, Tim.
Ah, well, his mother's at her office. She's not here, and grandma's in charge, and grandma had to use the facilities, so it was left to the little dog and the boy, and the little dog is getting old enough and grumpy enough she don't want to deal with him.
Yeah. So
And he's not to the point where he recognizes growl is not a good thing.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
we're trying to avoid the wounds that come with learning by experience.
Yeah. Well, he's a sweetheart, little Callum. You got a chance to see him this past Sunday in evening, so that was pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Okay. If we're all
thank you
set up,
all.
we'll get on to the next.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Have a great day. Thank you all for meeting. That's very
God
productive
bless you
meeting.
all.
Yeah, God bless you too. Okay, bye-bye, Tim
Bye.
and Vivian. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have more clarity now. What we want to do. Okay, let me see here.